Study Session 2, Grammatical Units and Systems. Introduction. The previous lecture introduced you to some basic concepts and terms relevant to this study. In this lecture, you will learn about the arrangements of elements of language into grammatical patterns and its grammatical units as sentence, clause, group, word, and morpheme. You are also introduced to the system's underlying patterns in each grammatical unit. Objectives. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to 1. Recognize the nature of grammatical organization and its systems. 2. Identify and characterize each grammatical unit in English. And 3. Explain the relationship between grammatical units. Pretest. 1. State whether each of the following expressions is a clause, a phrase, or a group. 1. She danced. 2. On the table. 3. If you are interested. 4. Don't leave the room open. 2. What is the difference between a phrase and a clause? 3. What is a sentence? Content. The term unit. The category unit accounts for the stretches of language of varying lengths and composition which themselves carry grammatical patterns or which operate in a grammatical structure. The diagram below shows the 5 grammatical units: sentence, clause, phrase or group, word, morpheme. As units belonging to different ranks, a sentence may consist of one or more than one clause. A clause may consist of one or more than one phrase. A phrase may consist of one or more than one word, and a word may consist of one or more than one morpheme. Morphemes are the minimal indivisible units in grammar. Conversely, we may also say that one or more than one morpheme may constitute a word. One or more than one word may form a phrase. One or more than one phrase may form a clause, and one or more than one clause may form a sentence. The sentence. The sentence has been defined in different ways, including the following. 1. Based on spoken substance, speech. A sentence is as much of the uninterrupted utterance of a single speaker. N. Francis, 1958. 2. Based on graphic substance, writing. A sentence means one of those portions of words which are divided from the rest by a single dot, which is called a period or full stop. 3. Scientifically defined. A sentence could be scientifically defined as any stretch of utterance between breath intakes. Whitehall, 1956, Structural Essentials of English. 4. Emphasis on grammatical independence. Each sentence is an independent linguistic form, not included by virtue of any grammatical construction in any larger linguistic form. Bloomfield, 1933, Language. Of all this, Bloomfield's definition has been accepted as the basis of a scientific definition of a sentence. The clause. The clause refers to a grammatically coherent text that has a verb. Clauses are grammatically either free, as in the man was arrested, or dependent, as in when he fell down, in the man was caught when he fell down. Thus, this sentence is made of 2 clauses. The group. The group refers to a group of words that occupies a distinctive grammatical slot in a linguistic structure. For instance, The following sentence has four groups, namely subject, verb, object, and adverbial. I, subject, saw, verb, the pretty girl, object, yesterday, adverbial. The word. The word appears to be a universal concept. Speakers of a language are often able to identify what words are, as they tend to associate a word with a single piece of meaning. Although intuitively, what constitutes a word is fairly obvious, an exact definition of word has proved difficult. 1. The spoken word. The spoken word contrasts with the orthographic word. Phonologically defined, a word is a segment of speech which can be isolated for independence in its own right, such that it carries the primary stress and can enter into syntagmatic or linear relationships with other such units within the syntactic framework of the language. 2. The orthographic word. In English, each word is a letter or a group of letters of the alphabet written between two obligatory spaces in the horizontal axis. When the policemen reached the station, they interrogated the suspect. A word can be defined from a variety of perspectives: as a phonological unit, as an irreducible terminal element of syntactic structure, morphological unit, and as the basic element of the lexicon. A word is recognized as the smallest unit that can stand on its own. The best known definition of word was proposed by the American linguist Bloomfield, who defined it as a minimal free from that can occur by itself. Bloomfield's definition of course works well for written English, where we conventionally leave a space for either side of a word. The word by Bloomfield, 1933, is referred to as a minimal free form that can be included in other non-minimal free forms. The morpheme. The morpheme, from morph, a Greek word meaning shape or form, is the minimal unit of meaning. Words, sentences, and even entire paragraphs can all be regarded as being built ultimately out of morphemes. Minimal means that an utterance cannot be divided into other, smaller meaning units. Still, another definition of morpheme is that it is a sequence of sounds that has function in a word. Distrustfulness has four structural or functional parts: this, trust, full, and ness. All the four parts of this word can function in other words such as disprove, trusty, beautiful, and happiness. We should notice too that these parts cannot be broken into smaller meaningful units. Each segment below is an instance of the morpheme. When the policemen reached the station, they interrogated the suspect. Grammatical system. The category system accounts for the range of choices which are available within a unit, and any given range of possible options is known as a set of terms. Two important properties of a system are that the list of terms contained in it is finite and that the options are all mutually exclusive, so that if a new term is added, the meaning of at least one of the existing terms is affected. For example, the relations between the terms from the system of mood sentence types may be set out as follows: free clause, indicative, imperative, declarative, interrogative. Free clause majority: major positive P, minor negative P. Bound clause function: conditioning, adding, reported, group, nominal, adjectival, verbal, adverbial, prepositional. Now, here are some of the systems which can be applied to verbal groups. Number can be defined as a system of special forms by which it is denoted whether a referent is one, singular, or more than one, plural. The distinction between singular and plurals in English nouns is morphological. See Lecture 4. Number, singular. Example, boy, lady. Plural. Example, boys, ladies. Person is a way of classifying reference in a relation to the speaker. It occurs in various forms, but the one found in English pronouns is distinguished between first person singular, speaker, second person, persons, addressed, and third person, referent or person spoken of. Person. First, example, I, we. Second, example, you. Third, example, he, she, they, it. Tense is a major grammatical system in English. In English, reference to the time of action or event, which is whether the action or event being described took place in the past, is taking place in the present, or will take place in the future, is made in the verb. Tense in English is marked by morphological changes in the form of the verb. Modern English grammar recognizes two terms in the system of tense, as can be seen in the following diagram. Tense is a major grammatical system in English. In English, reference to the time of action or event, which is whether the action or event being described took place in the past, is taking place in the present, or will take place in the future, is made in the verb. Tense in English is marked by morphological changes in the form of the verb. Modern English grammar recognizes two terms in the system of tense, as can be seen in the following diagram. Tense, positive past. Example, he arrived yesterday. Past, present, he arrives today. Future, he will arrive tomorrow. Voice can be defined as any one of the forms by which the relation of the subject to the action is indicated. There are two terms in the system of voice as seen below. Voice. Active. The chairman cancelled the trip. Passive. The trip was cancelled by the chairman. Aspect is any one of the several groups of forms in the conjugation of the verb, which serve to indicate the manner in which the action denoted by the verb is considered as being carried out. See the diagram below. Aspect. Progressive. John is coming. Perfect. John has come. Study session summary. You have seen in this lecture that language has structure and systems. These have been described and explained. You are now in a position to distinguish phrase, clause, and sentence, and the systems in them. Post-test. 1. Distinguish a phrase from a clause. 2. Distinguish between sentence and clause. End of study session 2. Thanks for listening.